Tom Zubrycki, documentary filmmaker. What inspired me? Well, curiosity, I suppose, about the world, and a way of applying. Well, originally the way I got into it through a sociology degree that I was doing at the University of New South Wales, and I was interested in some sort of practical application of that, and so my first interest was in video and community video, and that gradually led to making films. I'm not sure what else I could say apart from, well, I suppose wanting to tell stories. Initially telling small ones, which had a very narrow focus, usually to small groups of people made with quite primitive video tools, to films that had a much larger scope. Yes, it was Waterloo, a film called Waterloo, and it was, well, you can probably read about it on my website, but it's essentially, it took me a little while to make, as most first films do. It was essentially going to be a record of a community campaign against the imposition of high-rise towers by the housing department in New South Wales, where they were going to tear down a whole, several blocks of particularly inner city community. And so that was the actual kind of topic I was focusing on. That was the initial issue, but from that it led me in all kinds of directions. And in fact, it became a kind of a historical treatise on this particular community and why and what led to it being, challenged in this way. A 16mm camera, and I did a lot of the sound on a Niagara, and post-production was done on I think an Intercine machine, a flatbed, all on film. Oh, everybody was using this equipment. It was standard. The main challenge at that time, because I had used video before, was trying to contain shooting a particular scene in 1 or 2 or 3 rolls maximum. Each roll was 10 minutes. And that included an interview too, because of the expense of the stock and processing and printing of the film. You had to be quite prepared when you went out to shoot. So it was actually quite difficult to do anything observational. In fact, I didn't really attempt that until the following film I made called Chimera. You just have to think ahead of time and pace yourself to some extent. Work out very clearly what the story was going to be. With this particular film, it was like an industrial dispute. It was a strike, a sit-in strike in a colliery, which couldn't go anything beyond 2 weeks. So the idea was that I couldn't shoot every day because of the stock limitations, budget limitations and so on that I just referred to. So I went and shot every 2 or 3 days, and also made sure that I was there at particular key events. And then I didn't have the whole budget for the film. In fact, I had no budget. So we raised the budget gradually in pieces. And I think overall the ratio was probably about 25-1 for I think a 65-minute film. I still, well, I was actually more spontaneous back then and took more risks, funnily enough. Not having a budget, particularly for that film. And I managed to accrue stock by begging and borrowing from various other filmmakers who had dated stock that might have been in their fridges, including production houses. So it's a bit different now. But now, sure, I also start things off not having a budget, but I guess cautious not to raise expectations for the people I'm working with. So that's what makes me hesitate to do a lot of filming on something that I might know sort of intuitively it's not going to work into a film. In fact, I know better now what may or may not end up being a film. So, I probably do less filming in the research phase now than I used to do. But I probably do more filming in production because I always want to keep some options open, and often I film with characters that end up being dropped from the film later on.